October the 18th, 1977. German Special Forces and the British SAS prepare to attack a hijacked German plane in Africa. Hours earlier, 4 Palestinian terrorists had executed its pilot. The rescuers planned to free the 87 hostages and kill the hijackers. They killed 3, but the story didn't end there. 1 female hijacker survived. 18 years later, she, the pilot's widow, and the SAS commando who tried to kill her are counting the cost. Ten hours later, a jubilant Prime Minister James Callaghan visited Chancellor Schmidt in Bonn in Germany. They had freed the hostages and resisted the kidnappers' demands for the release of German and Palestinian terrorists. Everyone was coy about the secret British weapon.
Well, thank you for all the help you have given us.
The British government and the leadership of your Prime Minister was very, very helpful, and this is highly appreciated by the Chancellor and the German government.
Can you say how he helped?
No, I refuse.
Without being too specific, there are certain British specialists in this field, just as there are many German specialists, and we were able to give some specific help with personnel, just 2 particular personnel.
Those 2 particular personnel were both SAS, experts in covert anti-terrorist operations. One, Barry Davis, still lives close to SAS headquarters in Hereford. He knows the secrets behind those dramatic 5 days of the hijacking.
I was one of 2 members of a unit in England called the Special Air Service. We were invited by the German Chancellor in 1977 to help the Germans with an aircraft that had been hijacked.
Barry Davis spent 18 years in the SAS. He was trained to kill for his country. Men died by his hand. Not surprisingly, he feels no guilt and regrets nothing.
When you do a job, when you shoot terrorists or rebels, you don't tend to think, because you don't know them. And you shoot them, and you look at them, and they're dead, and that's it. Somebody will miss them, and somebody will show emotion of them, but not me.
The only Palestinian terrorist to survive the carnage at Mogadishu was Suhaila Androz. She came off the plane on a stretcher, defiantly, with 6 bullets in her body. 18 years later, she would discover that she cannot escape her past. After he left the SAS, Barry Davis wrote a book about his experiences at Mogadishu. A journalist from a Norwegian paper read it. He knew that Suhaila Androz was living in Norway. He proposed a meeting between the 2. Both agreed. Now, here in Oslo, Barry Davis is about to meet the woman he once tried to kill.
Didn't you shoot?
Did I shoot?
You shot me.
No, I didn't. I didn't
Come
shoot you.
on, I remember only you. I remember here from both sides.
No.
There were people also with this
Yeah.
black polish on their faces, but it's only you I remember.
At that stage, the firefight was then, at the early stage, was contained to the front of the aircraft, but it went on for quite a long time. During this time, the passengers tried to get out of the aircraft. Most passengers in an emergency situation are trained to jump into the safety chutes. Unfortunately, they were doing that onto the ladders. They actually jumped onto the ladders and were trying to slide down the assault ladders. It was chaos.
Do you remember, you said in your book, I said, kill me, but you didn't remember the other part.
You I think you said free Palestine as well.
Yes.
Yeah, free Palestine you said as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I say a lot of things were happening and a lot of people were still, a lot of the passengers were still around
And
waiting
have you
for
noticed some Somalians which were also holding their hands up? Many times I wish that I was killed at that moment with the others. Many times I wish that I am dead, and now I wish it every day. If I was killed at that time, it would be much easier for me. I'm suffering a lot, and for no reason. Nothing, it won't help society. All this, what I'm going through now.
What she's going through now is the chilling prospect of standing trial in Germany for crimes committed in 1977. Recently, the German police found her while investigating the German terrorist who gave the hijackers their weapons. They asked Norway to extradite her. Heidi Bakker-Wiig, Suheila's lawyer, is trying to stop the extradition to Germany.
The extradition request came in October 1994, 3 years after she came to Norway. On the German side, they have charged her for the hijacking, taking hostages, taking part in a ransom demand of $15 million. She's charged for taking part in murder of the captain, and she's charged for taking part in attempt of murder of the passengers and the stormtroops who stormed the plane.
So the Norwegians will decide whether Suheila will be tried in Germany. They recently played host to another former Palestinian terrorist, but in this case they honoured the PLO leader Yasser Arafat, one of the peacemakers in the Middle East, with a Nobel Prize.
The case came for the court the first time before the Nobel Peace Prize should be delivered to the leaders of the Palestinian and the Israeli people. At that time, the court found that humanitarian reasons were so heavily present that it prohibited extradition. The police made an appeal to the higher court. So the whole decision by the middle court was put aside, and the case is now back to the middle court.
For Suheila, this case is one more instance of the oppression suffered by the Palestinians since they were driven from their land almost 50 years ago.
It's awful just to be a Palestinian. A Palestinian means to be humiliated. They don't care if you are well-educated, if you are wealthy, if you have good manners. No, you are a Palestinian. And that's because you are a refugee. You don't have a land, you don't have home, you don't have a government to protect you. You're weak, you're nothing. What else would lead a person like me, who is non-violent? I never hurt anyone in my life. From a very good Christian family. It leads me to take a part in such an operation. my home was stolen. It's my right to defend my home. And Palestinians didn't have any weapon in their hands. I just was filled with love to my country. And when I was asked about that, I said yes, at once, without thinking.
But what is acceptable when you fight for your country? 18 years ago, posing as a tourist, Sohaila willingly flew to Mallorca to hijack the plane. Day one of the hijack began on October 13th in Palma, Mallorca, where 83 German holidaymakers had been soaking up the late autumn sunshine. On the flight home, they would be held hostage for 5 days by the PFLP, Sohaila's Palestinian terror group. The release of 11 leaders of the German Baader-Meinhof gang was the chief demand of the Palestinians. The Baader-Meinhof gang terrorized Germany in the 1970s. They bombed, murdered, extorted, and kidnapped. Their targets included politicians, judges, police. The top leaders of the gang, including Andreas Baader himself, had been caught and imprisoned. The Baader-Meinhof gang tried to secure the release of their leaders by kidnapping the Mercedes-Benz boss, Martin Schleyer, here humiliated on videotape by his captors. The kidnapping of the additional hostages in Mallorca by Mahmoud, the Palestinian terrorist leader, Sohaila and their 2 fellow hijackers, increased the pressure on the German government to release the Baader-Meinhof gang's leaders. But today, Sohaila claims that before hijacking the plane, she had no knowledge of the demand for the release of 11 Baader-Meinhof terrorists.
I just knew that 2 Palestinian prisoners would be free from the prison, freed, and that this Germany, who is paying everything for Israel because of their bad conscience, they forgot about the other people who are suffering because of Israelis. So we wanted money from them too, for the Palestinian organization. Those were the 2 aims. I didn't know the Baader-Meinhof. I didn't hear the name before 1977. I cannot imagine violence anymore. Because the way that hijacking ended was horrible. It's only death and blood. And those children screaming, there weren't children, there was only 2, but that I made them suffer or be afraid was something so horrible for me. I couldn't get rid of this feeling. Although I believed in what I have done, I believed really, and I felt I was honored by it. I was serving my country.
Meeting Sohaila caused Barry to think about his own past.
I do feel that being in the SAS suppresses feelings that you would normally have. I think as you do lose the training, you gain some of these emotions back again.
It's plain to see that the problems the Palestinians had trying to get their voice heard through the normal channels wasn't working. And likewise, I think if I'd have been born in Palestine, I would have been the same as Sohaila. I would have become a terrorist or a freedom fighter and gone ahead and did hijacks and things like that.
Baggage receipts in there, Mr. Davis. There's your boarding card. If you'd like to go through into the lounge,
Yep.
it's going to be gate 46, which is a coach, so go there early.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye. I'm off to see Suhaila in Norway with the hope of at least being some help to her in avoiding extradition to Germany. A couple of weeks ago, I got involved with her, mainly to find out the truth of what actually happened inside the aircraft when we assaulted it. When I actually saw her, it then dawned on me what we'd done to the woman. I know that she was a terrorist, I know she was guilty, but seeing the state of her and what she'd been through and hearing her story, I felt obliged that I should do something to stop any further suffering of this woman. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is the woman we tried to kill 17 years ago. I know it sounds ironic, but it would have been better there and then if we'd have shot her there. This would never have happened. If we'd shot her and killed her there, she had died with the other three, then it would have been perfect.
Barry's second trip to Norway began a journey that would take him to several European countries as he tried to understand the experience of a terrorist and her victims.
Speak of the devil. Hello, I hear you.
In Oslo, Barry Davies plans to testify in court on Suhaila's behalf.
So this is Keith, this is Heidi.
Hi. Nice meeting you. I'm happy they could take you that soon.
We rushed everywhere.
I know.
Plane was late, everything was late.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's go inside.
Okay.
The Norwegian judge gave permission for a tape recording of Barry's testimony. He asked Barry what happened.
In Mogadishu, we made a plan, and the local government at the time allowed the German anti-terrorist squad to come in, and jointly we did an assault on the aircraft. It is general practice that you neutralize the enemy with whatever force you have, and that means to kill them. My main interest here is purely one of fair play. We have to get down to the basics of human rights at the end of the day. I don't believe in terrorism, and I don't believe people should walk away scot-free. But I believe that we should have some understanding of why people do things.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Pardon?
How'd it go?
I'm satisfied.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
What was the proceeding all about?
Well, I wanted to have Barry Davies as a witness in this case because he took part at the storming of the plane, and at that time, and since that time he has followed this case, he has been working with it, and he has met Suhaila, and he's one of the few persons who knows a lot about this case from both sides.
For Suhaila, the journey from Mogadishu to Norway has been hazardous and turbulent. In Mogadishu, she was brutalized in prison.
Hei. Hvordan går det?
After her release, she had stormy relationships with her fellow terrorists. At first, she was proclaimed a heroine. She was befriended by the notorious assassin Carlos the Jackal. But after marrying a Palestinian pacifist, she was forced to flee the Middle East, along with her little girl, because of death threats to her husband. In Norway, she's tried to create a new life for herself, but her past has caught up with her.
She is sentenced already. She was sentenced in Somalia in 1978 to 20 years of prison. She was pardoned after 1 year, I think, because of severe health problems. She was pardoned by Siad Barre at that time, the president of Somalia. When she was pardoned, she was sent to hospital in Czechoslovakia and stayed there for further operations and treatments for half a year. Since then, her pain has followed her
Now I am gonna I'm gonna undergo an operation 10th of August now, because if you want to try to hold this plate, you know, this plate you can feel it. Yes, then this was planted last operation here in 1993, and this came out of the bones, you know, and now I need this operation, and the doctor will check my knee to see what kind of artificial knee he will put instead of my knee. You know, I don't like to talk about my pain, and you felt this maybe. I don't like to look sick.
Suhaila is fighting her extradition case on humanitarian grounds. She argues she's suffered enough, and her 10-year-old daughter will grow up without her mother if the Germans imprison her.
The baggage from SK 1456 from Copenhagen.
I do fear that if she is extradited, and there is a good chance of that, then she may commit suicide. If she goes, it would be a sad loss.
Barry leaves Oslo ready to embark on the second leg of the journey, to meet Suhaila's victims. They will shake his faith in Suhaila's cause. On the second leg of the journey to Germany, Barry is uncertain what he'll discover as he tries to track down the victims of the hijacking.
I'm on the ferry from Felixstowe to Zeebrugge. My intention in Germany is to establish the truth of how each side perceived the story, in the hope that at the end of the day I'll get some clear picture as to actually what happened.
Germany is familiar turf. Barry spent 3 years here as a soldier.
We're just come up to the German border. I wish I had £1 for every time I pass through this place, I tell you. I must have passed through this checkpoint at least 500 times.
"20 years ago, Germany was at the front line in the Cold War against the Soviet bloc. But the greatest threat to its security came from homegrown terrorists, the Baader-Meinhof gang. They created such havoc, the government had to alter the constitution. Armoured cars patrolled the streets. Armed police guarded politicians. The first stop, Karlsruhe, to discover why the German federal prosecutor wants to try Suhaila and Roos. The prosecutors work inside a heavily guarded fortress. They too were a target of the Baader-Meinhof. They're still pursuing fugitives from those days of terror.
We have a warrant of arrest since, I think, 78 or
I see.
like that.
Yeah.
And we didn't know where Suhaila and Roos was, but when we had the information about that, we had a case, an investigation against Suhaila and Roos. We have no choice to make a trial or not to make a trial. We have to do it under German law.
The prosecutors not only want to prosecute Suhaila, they track down Monica Haas, the woman who allegedly supplied the hijackers' weapons. They want Suhaila to testify against her.
The main reason you went to see Suhaila was about Monica Haas, the original case.
Yeah.
About Monica Haas, yeah.
There's a warrant of arrest. She's in jail at the moment, and I think we can finish the investigations in a few weeks.
Was Suhaila a help in the Monica Haas case? Was her information helpful?
I think so, yeah. It was helpful. Because she could tell some details what happened in Palma de Mallorca.
Day 2 of the Mogadishu hijack. The plane reached Dubai in the Middle East. It would stay there 2 days. Mahmoud, the terrorist leader, played with the hostages like a cat with a mouse. One moment demanding a birthday cake for Anna Maria, a Norwegian stewardess on the flight. The next threatening to kill the passengers and crew. We found one of the passengers in Switzerland. Birgit Rohl and her son Stefan, one of 9 children on the flight, were singled out by the hijackers' leader for special treatment.
Mahmoud was standing there and he said, "Down on your knees." So I went down on my knees and he said, "What's that?" And he did show me a pen, and he banged me in my face. And I said, "What pen?" I said, "Well, I can't see it, it's a pen." And he gave me another pen and bang, and he said, "It's a Jewish star on it, and you're Jewish." I said, "I'm not Jewish." And then again he banged me and gave me a kick on front of my knees. And I said, "Go back to your seat. And you'll be shot by tomorrow morning, and you at 8 o'clock, you come and you'll be shot."
Like the inmates of a prison, the victims on the plane nicknamed their captors.
Mahmoud was very angry always, and the little one, we called her the little one, and she was very nice to look at. And the other man, we called him the quiet one, with beautiful eyes. And Suhaila, the woman with the hand grenades, we called her the fat woman, and she was really not very nice. She was always shouting and screaming like Mahmoud. They tied us up with nylons, hands on the back. They strapped us in very tight with the seat belts. Everybody, even the little 2-year-old boy. And then they put the alcohol and perfume, which everybody bought in the duty-free, over our heads and spread it out in the aircraft. And they said when they blow us up and the whole aircraft, it will be quicker than that we burn, and we won't feel so much.
It conjures up a horrific death to face. And the little boy, so she tells me, faced it with such courage and such disbelief that anything was going to happen to him. But it would conjure up in anybody horror and the feeling to resent that sort of violence and to go against it.
And what would you therefore be inclined to do?
I'd be inclined to kill them. In fact, if anybody ever did anything like that to my children, I would track them down and kill them.
We give you enough time to prove that you want to change your imperialist mentality, but unfortunately you didn't cooperate.
Day 3. This was the critical day. It would determine the fate of the hijackers and the pilot Jürgen Schumann. Mahmoud, the terrorist leader in the red shirt, was uttering terrible threats.
We are going to execute all the passengers and the crew.
Mahmoud allowed Captain Schumann in the white shirt off the plane to organise refuelling. When he didn't return immediately, the hostages thought they'd been abandoned. In fact, he passed vital information to the authorities about the hijackers and their weapons. This heroic act, which cost him his life, would leave his widow scarred forever.
When I see Frau Schumann, I'm going to be truthful and honest with her and tell her that I've been investigating all the different aspects of the case, and tell her I've been to see Suhaila and the state she's in. I'm not looking for sympathy for Suhaila from Frau Schumann. I'm not even looking for understanding, because I think that would be wrong of me. She obviously went through a lot when her husband died, and he was just a man doing his job, and he did it very, very well. He protected his passengers to the very end. And I think that's one of the sad parts about all this. But she's a part of the puzzle like everybody else.
I felt that he must have been very alone. And how did he feel, during the hijack and all that? Photograph has been taken. I think it was during the hijack, and I think it was in Aden. Jürgen and the co-pilot sitting in the cockpit. Then how would you feel being treated so badly by the hijackers? He threatened him. He said he would shoot out the right eye and then the left. Jürgen said that he had given out information, and he asked him what, and he did that again in front of. He had to go down and sit and kneel in front of the passengers in the aisle, and he asked him, "Did you do that?" And Jürgen said yes, and he said, "What did you do?" And he had to say what he did. He had given out information. And he said, and he also, it's his fault that you, the hostages, have to suffer here on the plane. And then he asked, did Jürgen Vitor, the co-pilot, did he know that? And he jumped up and said, no, I didn't. And Jürgen said, no, he didn't. I did it by myself. Nobody knew, just me. He must have been afraid, like everybody else, even though he didn't show it. And there was all that burden with all that on his shoulders, all the passengers, and everybody would cling to him and ask him for help. He must have felt miserable. He just said, are you guilty or aren't you guilty? And Jürgen said, try to say, Captain, can I explain? And he asked again, and Jürgen said, I would like to explain. And he didn't, he just shot him. I felt I was living in a rubber cell without doors. And you want to get out and you can't, because you bounce back all the time. There's no way out. You can't find your way out because it's all rubber.
It was difficult for her. and she's brought up 2 boys with love. Both the boys are very stable, both love each other dearly, and obviously miss their father. I mean, as much a trauma for her and the boys, and Suhaila on the other hand, now she has a family, she has a daughter. So, and yet this woman is saying, you know, she holds no grudge against Suhaila.
Schumann. After the death of her husband, Monika Schumann became a television journalist. She has tried to collect every scrap of evidence to find out what happened to her husband in his final hours. Perhaps surprisingly, she's undecided about whether Suhaila should be extradited.
I don't know whether or not she's important enough that some crazy, insane Palestinian group or whoever, you know, terror group, would take that for a reason to start terrorizing people in Germany. But I think if that could be a possibility, I wouldn't want her to be extradited. And then, to me, it doesn't matter whether or not she will be, or she would be extradited. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help the children. It doesn't help my parents or my mother-in-law or all the other relatives. It doesn't help the hostages. But I think if this is what justice is all about, then maybe they should.
For Suhaila, time is running out. The decision about the extradition is almost at hand.
The situation now is that the Norwegian court has decided that according to our law, she can be extradited. It is the Justice Department who will decide whether she shall be extradited or not.
Day 5 of the hijack. When Barry Davies threw the first stun grenade, it signalled the start of the assault. Within seconds, the assault team were on board and the hostages safe. Jürgen Schumann was the last to come off the plane. His body was flown back to his wife in Frankfurt on the plane that took the hostages home. Back in Germany, in Stuttgart, that same morning as Suhaila was carried from the plane on a stretcher, the 4 gang leaders of the Baader-Meinhof learned that the hijacking had failed. They would not be freed. 4 attempted suicide. 3 succeeded. In Frankfurt, the government celebrated the homecoming of the liberated hostages. They had not invited Monika Schumann to the ceremony, perhaps because they thought her grief would blight the jubilation. She came anyway.
Liebe Frau Schumann, Herr Ministerpräsident, Exzellenzen.
Many passengers felt no sympathy for the dead captain. They thought he'd betrayed them and put their lives in danger. Only one hostage sent a letter of condolence to the pilot's widow.
That's why I went to the airport. That's why I wanted to see who the hostages were, what they looked like, why they acted the way they did, in order not to become bitter.
Erlösung für so viele.
I could understand then how they felt and that they never talked to me, that they didn't feel the urge to do it.
I'm going back to Norway after 4 months to see Suhaila. Having said that, I've actually written to her and spoken to her on the telephone. In that time, I've collected an awful lot of information and interviewed a lot of people about the hijack, both people that were directly and indirectly affected by it. One of those people, Monica Schumann, is meeting me in Oslo to speak to Suhaila.
"18 years after the hijack, the major players, the widow, the terrorist and the soldier, meet in Oslo.
I'm fine, how are you?
They discover that time does not cure all ills, nor resolve the moral contradictions.
Well, that's one thing I really want to find out. How she's always pretending, I think, from what I saw on TV and what I read. I don't think I believe her, and I don't like her asking for pity all the time, not taking responsibility for what she did. I just want to know, how does she feel now, and how can she act like that? How can she be such a coward?
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
I can't.
Okay, sit down.
Would you like to shake hands?
I'd rather not.
After all these years, when we are shaking hands with Israelis who hijacked our country, I think it wouldn't be so difficult for you to shake hands with someone who tried actually to stop the killing of your husband.
I don't think I can forgive you for what you did, but at least I try to understand it. I want to understand what happened. And that is one of the reasons why I'm here. I did that for 18 years now. Like you had to live with it, I had to live with it. And I just want to find out about you.
I don't have any feeling or skyldfølelse. Yeah, guilty towards the captain. I feel that I have done all what I could to rescue him. That's why I don't feel guilty, and I didn't want to ask for forgiveness for that, because I know that
But
God knows
think if you wouldn't have even hijacked that plane, that nothing would have followed. I mean, this is the first thing you do. Everything you do in your life, every moment of your life, you have to take the responsibility on the consequences
I tried to talk him into reason. I said that he is important to us. I said we didn't receive any order to kill anybody, and this is against the orders. I said that the Germans are going to attack us if we kill him. By those three things, reason, I tried to convince him. And I thought that maybe he was convinced. I wasn't sure that he wasn't convinced either. I had that hope that he was convinced.
He told everybody that he was going to do it. I just wonder if Jürgen would have acted differently, if it would have helped save his life.
Everything I have said was the truth. Why shouldn't I be believed and others should be believed? Because I was a terrorist? But I wasn't a criminal. I've never done a criminal thing in my life.
Well, hijacking a plane is a criminal act in our understanding.
For you, not for us.
Yeah.
If I felt it was a criminal thing, I wouldn't do it. You know, even morals are different from country to country. You are the son and the daughter of your own society. My society applauded for me. So I was a hero. Yeah. I didn't do a criminal act for myself. Yeah. I didn't see it that way. I abuse criminality.
I think the hostages are the ones that you should ask, because I wasn't on that plane. I lost my husband, and all I'm concerned is how did he feel, and was he mistreated, and how did he feel there? That's my highest concern. I believe, you didn't pull the trigger, so I can't make you guilty for that, how did he feel, and how did all of you make him feel, the way he was treated after Dubai? And that's what gets to me, because I think this is worse than when you're dead, you don't feel anything anymore.
What do you think about a person who has been punished before and who has lived without any, without any violence, 18 years, trying to make up for what he has done once before? Is it right to take that person from his new homeland, where for the first time I am feeling safe for the first time, to be taken from all this, from my daughter?
I don't know. I think it doesn't help us a bit whether your daughter has her mother or not. It doesn't help me. The difference between her and me is that she chose to belong to a terror organization. She chose to hijack that plane. She even chose, for me, to lose my husband. I didn't have the choice. She took that choice for me. And later on, she could choose to find herself a husband and get married and have a child. I didn't choose that life.
On one hand, you could say that no, she was a terrorist, justice must be done, she must go and stand trial. But who stands in her corner and says, what about justice for the Palestinian people? That's what she was trying to get at the time of the hijack, was justice for the Palestinian people, her people.
To be fair to everybody, I think she should be extradited. I think she should stand trial. And even if it would mean that they let her go and she could live a free life, but at least she would have taken the responsibility for what she did.
Sohaila Androz was parted from her daughter in November last year when she was extradited to Germany.
Suhaila Andros was eventually sentenced to 12 years imprisonment. Her daughter remains in Norway.